Welcome back, guys. We're back here. Had some technical difficulties that are shored up a little bit. Um, Although not loving that this is technically in 720p, even though I don't know. There's all sorts of issues going on, but we figured it out enough to get this thing going. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the live stream, Jake Ellenbogen Live. Brought to you, of course, by our partners, Manscaped. You can get 20% off and free shipping by going over to manscaped.com and putting in promo code JKB or DTR. Manscaped literally hooked me up with the perfect package 3.0. And I've used all the products. I highly recommend them. I have a thing of mine. I can't recommend a product. I will never recommend a product if I've never tried it before. So I have tried it. It works very well, and I highly recommend it. So that again, JKB or DTR at manscaped.com will get you 20% off and free shipping. So we are back here doing a live stream, the calm before the free agency storm, if you will. Now, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that hasn't gone on, and there's a lot that is going on that we don't know about, and a lot that will go on next week that we will know about. So right now, it's the calm. You're having all sorts of things going on. People have asked me, hey, why haven't the Rams restructured any deals? Well, to be honest with you, they probably already have. They're just waiting to kind of clump it all together and release it all as, one statement to the league. Like, hey, so we took these four and we, restructured their contracts. One. Two, another thing with contracts is that, the common misconception is when you have a contract restructure, you're always assuming it's going to be something like a Spotrac. That's Spotrac saying this is a base salary restructure. There are things that can get way more complicated, can save you more money, but also take a lot longer than just a straight up base salary restructure. So that is what's going on here. Can only imagine there. And then with free agency, we're going to have some players that are signed down to the wire. We know the legal tampering period begins on Monday, I believe at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be down to the wire. You will have signings that come up. You will see this free agency class get a little weaker. It happens every single year, just like the franchise tags. But you have to feel good if you're looking for an edge defender. There are a lot of edge defenders that will be available simply for the fact there's just not a lot of cap space in this league. And on top of it, it's just a really good crop. I mean, all across the board, you have guys like Jadeveon Clowney, you have guys like Shaq Barrett, Bud Dupree, Romeo Wakwara, Carl Lawson, you name it, and you probably have it. So that's also a huge thing because it's a weaker edge class, in my personal opinion. And then you look at the cornerback class. We just added Casey Hayward to the mix. He was cut today by the Los Angeles Chargers. So they are revamping that cornerback position. We'll see if they end up holding on to Chris Harris Jr., who they signed last year. But all in all, right now, you have to feel like there's a lot of talent out there. If you want to, restructure your team, you can go through free agency and do that. Now, let's just say this. Free agency is expensive. It is. And while there are a lot of veterans out there and a lot of players in general that are going to take 1-year deals, you have to keep this in mind, is that, not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody will. And so you'll have receivers that want to get paid. You'll have other guys that want to get paid. And what they'll ultimately decide to do is sign with a lesser organization, a team that's probably going to be in the rebuild mode because they want extra money. Perfect example of this, Mark Ingram probably felt like $3 million for 1 year was a lot more than he was going to get on the open market. So he went right over to the Houston Texans, signed on the dotted line, and he is going to be in that committee backfield with David Johnson, who just recently took a pay cut. So you're going to see a lot of this. You're going to see a lot of, receivers that may have been 2s or 3s on their previous team have an opportunity to go out, get paid over 4 years by going to a team that has a lot of cap space like the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you're going to see it. I would imagine it's going to be pretty common. I would imagine you could see Josh Reynolds from the Los Angeles Rams sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars if they want to spend the money on him. I would imagine, if a guy like Kenny Golladay is only about the money and doesn't really care to go to a contender, he'll probably end up in Jacksonville. But there are other teams as well. The New York Jets have cap space. Indianapolis Colts have cap space, so there are teams that definitely have cap space. But that's what I'm expecting. This to go down with. Now, we went through all of the draft class on the last live stream. I'm pretty sure we did, and what I found is that the positions where the draft is weaker, it seems like free agency is stronger. So that is something that I'm keeping in mind here. It could really impact, free agency as we know it. It could really impact the draft as we know it. So we'll see there. What's up, Ramley Radio? How we doing? What's up, Will? Samuel, how we doing? Scott B. You're getting your stimmy just in time for the Stafford jerseys to come out. Perfect. A green substance, welcome. All right, so we have a good amount of people in here. I'd say 21 on short notice. I mean, my schedule is 4, but we had all sorts of issues. I scheduled something, didn't happen, yada yada. Anyway, so I want to ask you guys. We're gonna have some communication, old-fashioned communication here. I want to ask you guys what you guys want in this free agency class. Who do you want? Who are you looking at? Who's your team? All of that. Drop it and let's discuss a little bit. If you want to give me a player, actually let's do this. Give me a player and I will tell you where I think he could go. So let's just start off by that. Hit me up with a player and tell me where he could go. Or hit me up with a player and I'll tell you where he can go. There we go. That's it. That's better. Come on, guys. We're in engagement mode right now. It's early on, but we're in engagement mode. Jake, before we go into players, do you know that how we save $10 million in cap? I've seen that now twice. Can anybody specify that? I literally have no idea. I have none. If it's on like SpoTrack, like is that what it's based on, or did like something come out that they saved 10 million? Yeah, because SpoTrack showing 41 million over the cap, which is good. I mean, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense based on what's happening. I see Rams signed a 1-year deal with Coleman Shelton for 850,000. And then I have Traven Howard signed a 1-year deal for 850,000. Steven Wirtle was signed to a reserve futures contract with the Los Angeles Rams. And, of course, the Goff Stafford trade. Jake, what do you think about DeSean Jackson? He's from LA. He's a relationship with McVay. Fills the role we need. Won't cost a lot. Obviously not a guy he used to be, though. Yeah, I just think here's the thing, though. When you look at DeSean Jackson, he's never healthy. The best ability is availability. And if you don't have that, I don't care how fast you are. I don't care how well you are at route running. I don't care how well you can catch. I don't care. I don't. And that's my biggest issue with DeSean Jackson is he'll play one game, he'll hurt his hammy, which to me falls on the player. If you're constantly having hamstring issues, I have an issue with that. I think that falls on you. Your conditioning isn't up to snuff. Like, guys that are well-rounded as athletes, but are well-rounded condition-wise, they don't have hamstring issues out the wazoo. So a guy like DeSean Jackson, that tells me that he's not keeping himself in the best shape and really never has. So, yes, he's fast, sure, but there's certain areas of his body where he's not conditioned, and that's why he gets all these hamstring issues. And to me, I think that's 100% a red flag, and I wouldn't sign anybody like that because I'm done with the whole, well, he can do this, but he gets hurt. No, I'm done with that. I'm absolutely done with injury prone. That is the name of the game this offseason. I'm so done with it. Mike Hilton, that's a good question. I think Hilton could come back to the Steelers. I think Hilton, he could go someplace like, say, I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Chargers, to be honest with you. They could go after a nickel. He'd make sense for, what Brandon Staley wants to do. But I could see the Chargers. I could see the Colts. Although the Colts would be him kind of graduating from being a nickel and the Colts believing he could be a boundary corner, which I don't know if that's necessarily the case. The Jets are an option. They have Bryce Hall there. Grab another guy there. 49ers. Who do they have in the back end of their secondary? That's not a free agent. I mean, they're absolutely depleted. So I wouldn't be surprised if, somebody like Mike Hilton goes to the 49ers. I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes back home with the Steelers. I thought, that was a really good role for him. The Steelers should focus on bringing back him and Cam Sutton before they focus on Juju Smith-Schuster, in my personal opinion. But we'll see. Why haven't the restructures gotten done yet? Because there's a lot to it, Kareem. And I think that they're waiting to announce it all at once. I don't think that they're going to announce 1, 2, 3. I think they're going to announce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how I see it. I think Marvin Hall is more likely than Jones. He is. I don't really think Jones is that likely, but I wouldn't mind obviously seeing him as a Ram. How about the damn Snyder cut, bro? Looks fire. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that. I mean, obviously, you guys know I'm more MCU than DCEU, but if it's good enough, I'll make a video on it for sure. How do you feel about re-signing Darius Williams? Well, that's done. I mean, they're not dumb. I didn't say that. Done. I just wanted to make sure I specify that. So, here's the thing. Okay, Darius Williams ain't leaving the building. He's just not. They're going to tender him second or first rounder. And keep in mind, they get a first rounder if they refuse, and they get a second rounder if they refuse, which they're not going to. So he's going to remain a Ram. But Dupree could remain with the Steelers. I think the Ben Roethlisberger rework of his deal really opens up the doors for him to come back. I think that they should prioritize him over Juju. I think pass rushers are so, reliable and so, important in this league. And so I wouldn't want to see him leave if I'm a Steelers fan. But the Colts could be knocking. Chris Ballard would go after him, I think. The Jets, I think, would also, with the new look they have there with Robert Saleh. I think that those are definitely some options. Ryan Kerrigan, I think the Rams could be a fit. I do. I could see the Bills being a fit. I think he'd fit Sean McDermott's defense pretty well. But he needs to figure out what he wants, because I think he could go somewhere and be like a backup, a rotational guy. But I think he wants to start, and I think he wants a ring. So we'll see. Ryan Kerrigan, I think, wants a ring at this point, though. How about we sign Houston or Clowney or Romero? So Clowney, obviously, I want Clowney. It'll be interesting to see how well his medical checks out, because I know the Rams, just from what I was talking to someone yesterday about it, I know the Rams are really concerned with Terrell Lewis's his durability. And, I mean, rightfully so. The guy couldn't stay healthy, and he couldn't stay healthy in college either. So if it checks out, then yeah. But also, if Jadeveon Clowney's medical doesn't check out, then I don't see them doing that. Romeo Okwara right now is kind of feeling like the vibe. I mean, here's the thing. I'll say this. Romeo Okwara is kind of feeling like the vibe, but I'll also say that I do think that what's his face? Jadeveon Clowney's an option. No, who said Cook? Jalen wants Dalvin Cook to come to the Rams. He could play a role if we got him. Oh, yeah, Dalvin Cook isn't going anywhere. Not this year, anyway. Do you think we could afford Clowney or Melvin Ingram, since both are coming off down years / injuries? Yeah. I think those are, realistically speaking, I think those are your best options. Excuse my dog Coda in the background barking. I think those are our best options. Those are your best options. If you're looking for a guy that has that superstar potential, but you're just kind of banking on the fact that, he got hurt. So I don't know. I think I'd probably go with that. Jalen wants... okay, yeah, I said that. Then there's been a lot of offensive linemen who were released the past couple weeks. Do you see a skinny anyone like Schwartz or Alex Mack? I I don't like Alex Mack because he's getting older, and to be honest with you, I don't think he's better than having a guy like Austin Blythe. I think Blythe is more valuable, so I'd say no on him. Um, but I would say with Mitchell Schwartz, this is one of the best right tackles in all of football, and if he doesn't retire, then I mean you have to kick the tires on him and see if he would play, and if he would, and you could sign him to a decent deal, then you would just move Havenstein. So when do we need these contracts restructured? Whenever the Rams need cap space. You can restructure at any point, but if you restructure and you want to sign guys and you wait until next week, say Wednesday, yeah, I like Aquara a lot as well. All right, guys, restructures are happening. Okay, they're being worked on. I've answered this now 3 or 4 times. Don't worry, relax. Restructures will happen. It's just they can't all happen like immediately. Like I don't think the Rams are doing a base salary restructure. I think they're doing more complicated things to get under the salary cap. Rams are going to ride it out with Blythe this season at center, bringing in a new coach. Offensive line scheme will be big to him. I hope so, and I think they should. Absolutely. Automaniac. 100%. What do you think the Rams prioritize first in free agency? Any guesses who the first signing announcement might be? DLine. So I mean, in free agency, I would imagine that they could go with a pass rusher. I don't think they'll go receiver unless they get like a John Ross, Marvin Jones, or Khalif. No, not Marvin Jones. Marvin Hall, John Ross, or Khalif Raymond. And if neither of those guys are at that, I don't think they go wide receiver. We talked about it a little bit last night on the gaming stream. When I was playing Madden, someone brought up Adrian Peterson. I could see them getting Adrian Peterson to fill the Malcolm Brown role. To be honest, I could see Malcolm Brown back. So who knows there. Quarterback, I think they're pretty well set at, so there's not anybody in this class that would intrigue me there. Tight end, I don't know. They could go with like a Mercedes Lewis, but I don't know where they're going with that. If Delaney Walker's available, they could go with him. Tackle, I think they would go offensive line. I think they go edge. That's what I think they'll look at in free agency. But that's just me. What you think Juju will do if Steelers don't re-sign? He's talked about returning home, but I think he would secure the bag first. Then down the line, he'll try an LA team. Great question, Henry. And by the way, it was a lot of fun last night playing Rocket League with you. That was cool on the stream. Juju could go to the Chargers. I would not be surprised if he went to the Chargers. Now, they would have Mike Williams. They'd have Keenan Allen. They'd have Juju Smith-Schuster. And then they'd have Donald Parham on at tight end. So, I mean, they want to give their guy weapons. So I don't know. I could see the Chargers. I could see the Packers, but they'd have to free a lot of money. I think that's a great fit for him, but I think they'd have to free up too much money. So honestly, we're going to know if Juju is all about the money or about, going somewhere and trying to win. Because again, if he's all about the money, he'll go to Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville would pay him out the wazoo, but, where do you think Sherman might go? I think Sherman's going to reunite with Robert Saleh. I think he's going to be a veteran presence in that locker room for the Jets. That's where I'm at right now. I kind of feel like that's where it's going. What do you think of Tavon Austin coming back? Maybe Goff. I don't know why I'm yawning. It's annoying. Maybe Goff couldn't utilize him the proper way. Tavon's not coming back. I don't see it. Realistically, Rams are moving Kupp or Woods this offseason and going to bring in one of Stafford's boys. By the way, this is the old auto from Twitter. Josh from Facebook, homie. Oh, what's up? How we doing? Okay, so I don't see them moving on from Cup or Woods. I think that they are going to go Cup, Woods, Van Jefferson, and then either draft a guy like Dwayne Eskridge in the second round, or they'll draft a pass rusher, wait a little bit longer, and get a guy like Jalen Darden out of North Texas, or maybe they'll go and get a guy that a lot of you guys like in the LA area, UCLA's Demetric Felton, or they'll go and get, Chatarius Tutu Atwell from Louisville, Amir Smith-Marset from Iowa. They've met with a few of those guys that I just mentioned, so just names to keep in mind. Let's see. Tavon Austin wasn't good on the Packers or Cowboys either. Kevin, it wasn't Goff's fault. Where do you see our boy John Johnson III going? That is a good question. Now, honestly, don't know why I'm yawning. I apologize. I'm not going to lie. I think he could go to the Cowboys. I think he could absolutely go to the Cowboys. I think it's a great fit for him. They have Xavier Woods, who is going to be a free agent. And to me, I feel like that's probably where he'll end up going. They need a safety in the back end. They need to start building up that defense. They got Dak Prescott signed, so congrats, but you need to give him a defense now. He was on pace for over 6,000 yards passing before he got hurt. There's nothing out there on defense. It's one of the worst defenses the Cowboys have had in quite some time. And that's saying a lot, because everybody would blame Tony Romo, and I could tell you, Tony Romo would throw 6 touchdowns, but people get mad because he threw an interception at the end and didn't throw 7. That was on the defense, in my opinion, just saying. But there's a lot of red names on that defense. First off, Tyrone Crawford. Then you have Aldon Smith. Then you have Chidobe Awuzie. Then you have free safety Xavier Woods. And then you have Jordan Lewis, Joe Thomas, Sean Lee. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be, heading out that door. And I feel like, you look at free safety position. Look, they got some good contribution out of a 5th rounder, Xavier Woods. But I think that they can get more, a lot more, and I think they can do it by way of going out and getting John Johnson. So I love that fit. It would obviously hurt to see it, but that's kind of where I see him going right now. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence, to me, wasn't living up to his draft status before that contract, or before his breakout season. So I was confused. I was like, the breakout season came right before, the contract. So is it take the money and run? Is that the type of player he is? I don't know. Well, it sure looks like it is leaning that way. Another option, the Raiders. The Raiders are losing Eric Harris to free agency. They have Jeff Heath, who I don't like really at all, former free safety for the Cowboys. So they have Jonathan Abram. I like him in the back end. They let go of LaMarcus Joyner, so they could be a huge option for John Johnson. I think they make probably more sense than the Cowboys, to be honest with you, because here's the thing. John Johnson went to Boston College. Do you know who's from Boston College? Well, it just so happens that the general manager from the Raiders, Mike Mayock, also went to Boston College. They have actually had communication with each other. I think I saw a video with the two, reminiscing over their time, with Boston College. So I could absolutely see that. He seems like a Gruden type of player. Sean McVay would give him, a huge, recommendation to his old protege. So I don't know, but I think the Raiders and I think the Cowboys would make sense, for John Johnson. Kyle Long, that's a great name there. So Kyle Long, to me, the Rams should go after him for sure. I really do like him. He's one of the best tackles, right tackles in the league, guards, whatever you want to put him. One of the best offensive linemen in the league. And then he had those injuries and he retired. But now he's back. He's in great condition. Any team that needs an offensive lineman should be looking at him. So I don't have a particular fit because I feel like he fits everywhere. I'll just put it that. Yeah, they had a lot of rollover cap from what I understand. Also, how would you like to see us address inside linebacker? Well, I'd love it because I think the Rams... Here's the thing, and I was saying this on the show, the State of the Rams show with Blaine Grisack earlier in the week. The Rams, okay, just because the Rams had Brandon Staley and Brandon Staley didn't value the inside linebackers the way some of us do, does not mean that Raheem Morris is going to be that way. The reason I say that, Raheem Morris is coming from the Falcons, and guess what? The Falcons have one of the more fun inside linebackers, next level linebackers, new breed linebackers in all of football, in DeSean Jones. And so having DeSean Jones, it allows you to do a lot. And to me, I don't feel like going from DeSean Jones to Troy Reeder and Traven Howard and Micah Kaiser and Kenny Young and Christian Roseboom is going to be enough for Raheem Morris. So I think there's going to be at some point or another, an option where maybe they go after, a guy like, Jabril Cox from LSU. I like Cameron McGrone a ton. I think he can be that leader in the middle that can be, your signal caller and everything on defense. Love him out of Michigan. I'd say Jamin Davis out of Kentucky is going to be a fun watch as well. For free agency, it's very limited, slim pickings, and I would probably say Jayon Brown is the top guy at this moment. You could also look at Denzel Perryman, who's going to be leaving the Chargers in free agency. I don't really know, though, about that. I think if you're the Rams, you're looking at a guy that can command that room, command the linebacker room. And to me, I think Cameron McGrone comes in day one and just sets another level and another tone for everyone around him. Lead by example. So I like Marcus Stevenson as well. We did a feature of him on Downtown Rams. He was interviewed by AJ Schulte. That was fun. I like Chaz Surratt better along with Errol Thompson from Miss State. Chaz Surratt, though, isn't fast. Like, that worries me. He's not as fast to the ball as, say, a guy like Cameron McGrone. Plus, I think McGrone picks the best angles so well. Like, he is by far the best. Like, he's the best angle tackler in this draft. I love how he sets himself up very well, always knows where to be. He's just a sound tackler, but also he can rush the passer. He can cover. In a perfect world, I mean, I think Jabril Cox probably makes the most sense for trying to emulate a DeSean Jones, very athletic, but I don't know if he'll be there. And to be honest, I don't know if the Rams would pick an inside linebacker at 57 overall. So, I like Garrett Wallow out of TCU. His play diagnosis, he's one of the best guys at just diagnosing the play and, reading and reacting. And to me, I think he's very intelligent. He's a guy that you definitely want in your defense if you can grab him. As of right now, defensive play caller would probably be not Troy Reeder. It would probably be Jordan Fuller, but I don't really like that. I think that they should go out and get an inside linebacker to do it, personally. What's up, Masanori? How we doing? Chargers have a good coach have been a good coach away for the last 10 years. Think Staley is the real deal for them. Absolutely. I mean, you guys know where I think. I think the Rams and Chargers are going to meet in the SoFi Stadium Super Bowl. That's where I'm at on that. I think that's very realistic. I think it's been realistic from the get-go. I think it was realistic before they hired Staley. Now it's very realistic because I think Staley is going to be huge for them. He's going to turn that defense into something special, and they have the best quarterback in, one of the best quarterbacks in the league long-term in Justin Herbert. And he might be, after Mahomes, he might be the most valuable quarterback to have, when you're looking at long-term future and everything, the upside. So I'll put it that way. Do you think we should cut Brockers to save money since SJD has improved a lot? I don't think the Rams should cut Brockers. It doesn't save them a ton of money because they come back with a lot of dead money. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I think they'd most likely trade him, though. He's got some value. Yeah, Joyner did not work out at all. Littleton took a restructure. I just didn't like what role they had Littleton playing. The Rams used him more versatile, and the Raiders had him as a specific role, and I don't know, a guy like that who's a former pass rusher at Washington. I don't agree with it. Do you think we should? Okay, saw that already. Um, I feel like these are all out of order because they're time stamped differently. I don't know why. Do you see Russell Wilson being traded or heading to one of the list destination spots his agent put out? Could see Russell Wilson going to the Raiders. Could see him going to. I'm the Bears. I just don't get the idea. You're gonna leave the Seahawks for the Bears is just mind boggling to me. I mean, look, eh, Seattle. I'm not the biggest fan of Seattle, obviously, and I do think that they're going to go 5-11 um, without Russell Wilson. But like the Bears, what have they done? Okay, they can't develop Mitch Trubisky. I don't think Matt Nagy's a good coach. I've said it over and over again. They're basically a defensive team. So yeah, you'll bring in Russell Wilson. Well, what difference is it? Because here's the thing: Russell Wilson has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson. So he needs to get over the hump. How is he doing that with the Bears? Congrats, you tagged Allen Robinson. That was a no-brainer. I mean the Bears. That I don't know. I don't get it for Russ. The Bears I get. Go out and get Russell Wilson because your offensive-minded coach who's this quarterback whisperer, so to speak, and a guru can't develop quarterbacks. Makes sense, right? Go out and get a guy that you don't have to develop. He's already ready. But I don't see it making sense for Russ. I think Russell Wilson going to the Raiders would be a fun fit, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense either. There's a lot of destinations that don't make a lot of sense for Russell Wilson. So, yeah, absolutely will. I love doing this. Later tonight, I don't know how late, because I am having company over. We're having, my cousins over. But later tonight, if I have time, maybe 11, 12, we'll do a live stream, and I'll be playing some games. We'll see what we'll play. Maybe Madden. We did start a franchise mode, yesterday. That was fun. A stream franchise mode where you guys had, I wouldn't say you guys had all the say, but you had a pretty decent say in who I drafted. Resign Blythe. What are they going to do with the offensive line backups? I mean, it really depends on what they do with Havenstein. If they let Havenstein go, if they trade him, whatever, then it opens up that spot. If not, then it'll just remain the same. It'll be the same as last year. Yes, if the Rams restructure contracts, they will become public. I've seen people complain about the Bears O-line, so it seems like Russ would be jumping into the same situation, only worse, because then how would the Bears build the line after the trade? Yeah, exactly. And the Bears are notorious for throwing all of their assets into one box and then shipping it off to the closest looking sexy option. So, I mean, we saw that. They traded a lot of assets for Khalil Mack. Now, it's great to have a guy like Khalil Mack, but what has that done for the Bears? It helped their defense, but like, are they winning championships? Are they going to Super Bowls? Do they even go to the NFC title game? That's my point, is that they're just not doing anything. And at some point or another, that's on the coach. I've seen people, top 5 free agents. I can't even talk. Top 5 free agents to get on our board. So for the Rams, I'd say number 1, Romeo Okwara. He's a 26-year-old pass rusher from the Lions. Had his best season this year. Very talented pass rusher. He failed out with the Giants, but was able to be developed in Detroit. He has that connection, obviously, to Matthew Stafford. That could have been one of the guys he was texting. The Rams desperately need pass rushing. I don't think they have a true starter right now. I would start Justin Hollins over Terrell Lewis. Terrell Lewis, of course, was their 3rd-round pick. So that just tells you that I don't feel like that was a good pick, and I don't think that it's going to amount to much because of his injuries, unfortunately. So I do think they need to go out and get a edge defender. I think Romeo Okwara would be great. Another guy, and these aren't in order, but, that. So Romeo Okwara, 1. 2, I'll say this, okay? So if you're making a big board of free agents and what have you, a guy that I would include here, and I'm not necessarily sure that they'll go after him, but I would say, um, I would definitely say that, I would go after Kyle Van Noy. He was recently cut as a cap casualty by the Miami Dolphins. I like him, versatile guy, can rush the passer, gave Goff hell in the Super Bowl. We already know he's very versatile. They can use him as a chess piece all over the defense, can play inside, can play outside. I like his versatility overall, and I think he'd be a nice piece, kind of rotating in and out of, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, what have you, for the Rams. So he's somebody that I'd add to that list. Another guy I would throw there, Jayon Brown. I don't know how much it will cost, but he's a guy that can fly around the field, sideline to sideline, making plays. Formerly with the Tennessee Titans. Another guy, Devontae Casey from the Falcons. So you get a Raheem Morris guy in there, guy that can play nickel. He can play boundary corner. He can play safety, both safety positions. Very athletic and very versatile from San Diego State. 2 years ago, I think he had 8 interceptions in a season. So he's a playmaker. Rams didn't get a ton of interceptions last year, so he'd be huge for them. Then you have at number 4. You could look at running back and Adrian Peterson. I do think he makes sense. If they want to go running back by committee, then Peterson makes sense. If they don't, then who cares? But I think Peterson can go over 1,000 yards right now if given the opportunity to be the bell cow. He doesn't have to do that though, and I think he'd be a great veteran presence and a guy, a model and a mentor for young running backs in Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. If they want to go that route, if they don't, totally fine. Number 5, I'll say Jadeveon Clowney. I just think when you look at the physical traits and just what he can do on a football field, I don't look at his Titans career because 1, it was like 8 games, and 2, he was pretty checked out because of all the injuries. I saw some good things also the other day on film, so I'm not going to rule him out. He's 28 years old. He's physically imposing. He's a former Pro Bowler. He did well playing with J.J. Watt. I think it's different when you play with Aaron Donald. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think this guy could go over 15 sacks in a season if he played with Aaron Donald. Again, only 28 years old. We're throwing this guy in that 30 bubble, and he's not there yet. Number 6, I'd say Tyus Bowser, a guy that has, inside, outside linebacker, presence and versatility, guy that can rush the passer, but, can also drop back in coverage. He's athletic, former, Houston player there. Number 7, I would say at cornerback, AJ Boye. I mean, what can you say about AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey? The tandem that they created in Jacksonville. It got broken up, but I think they definitely were a great tandem. I think he could be a good number 3, or they would move Darius Williams to nickel. I doubt that. I think it would likely be Boye playing, nickel there. I believe he's 27, 28 years old. So I think it makes sense, 1-year deal, AJ Boye. And then I'll say next, Casey Hayward's an option. Look, I want Casey Hayward a few off seasons ago. Casey Hayward, when the Rams signed Cody Sensabaugh, sorry to bring up such bad memories, but they signed Cody Sensabaugh to like a 4-year, $24 million deal. That's literally what Casey Hayward, but we'll see there. We don't know for sure how that's going to go. Another safety option here for the Falcons, Keanu Neal. I think he's very talented. He's had some issues with injuries, but if they could get him cheap, that might make some sense, especially because look, on paper, why would you add another safety? Why would you bring back John Johnson? Here's why. I'll say this right now. You have Taylor Rapp, who can't stay healthy. You have Terrell Burgess, who just suffered a huge season-ending injury. You have Jordan Fuller, who's a 1-year guy coming out of the 6th round who had a pretty good season, but guess what? He also got injured. So when you have all these pieces that you're counting on, but they have problems staying healthy, yeah, you might actually have to, dive in there and grab another safety, and I think they might do that. And I definitely think, a guy like Keanu Neal could make some sense there. And then just kind of wrapping it up here, Carl Lawson, everyone's worried about, he doesn't have the long arms. I don't give a rip, okay? This guy can play. He can rush the passer. And, he's somebody that would start day 1 for the Rams. No doubt about it. And then another guy I'll bring up here I'll bring up 2 guys, okay? So at pass rusher, I would like to see them, pursue a guy like Okwara, as I mentioned earlier. But I also am wondering where the the dial is. So how much are we turning up the dial in free agency? Could the Rams go into that elite status of pass rusher? Could they go after a Bud Dupree? Could they go after, a Shaq Barrett? I don't think so, but it's definitely something to keep in mind if they do want to go that route. And then, I think looking at, the other positions here, first off, I'll say this. I think Charles Harris is an interesting, guy there, defensive end, former first-round pick. Adam Mizzou was in that offense, of course, or rather that defense with Raheem Morris. He bounced around a little bit in the NFL, started off with Miami, and now he is with Atlanta. So I think he's an option there. That'll be interesting. But, you guys, Marvin Jones, you guys like Marvin Jones. Van Noy would be fun, though. Yeah, so those are my guys, I would say. That was a lot. What's up, Micah? I have a feeling the Rams will trade a player or two for more picks for next month's draft. I could see that. It would be clutch if they sign Acquire to a multi-year deal. I would love that. Bring in Lions players. You end up being the Lions. Yeah, but bringing in a few Lions players. Like, let's not act like the Lions are a bad team, because they're not. They're far from they didn't have, like, everybody on the Lions is bad. Like, that wasn't the case. They had some good players on that team. So, we'll see there. Trading Havenstein for a second would be great, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Might be a little too much. Hey, thanks, Blake. Appreciate you, super chatting me. What do you think of new compensatory picks changed? I mean, they didn't change too much. I know everyone had 101 and 103 to the Rams and probably were annoyed that they saw the 49ers get 102, 103, and the Rams got 104. The reason for this is because the Rams' first third-round pick was because of Dante Fowler Jr. That's all, basically calculated by how much of money is on that contract and how much they're paid and all that. With the minority coaching compensatory picks, they gave the 49ers one for Robert Saleh because I think I don't remember, like, is he Filipino? Yeah, I think he's Filipino. So they gave the 49ers a pick for losing him, but it happened before the Rams lost. What's his face? I've been talking about him constantly now. I can't remember his name. The GM for the Lions, help me out. Before they lost Brad Holmes. There we go. Before they lost Brad Holmes. So because it happened before they got Brad Holmes, that pick is before the 49ers. Hope that makes sense. They traded their base third-round pick in the Matthew Stafford deal. How long would you give a cornerback to develop into a starter? This would have been a perfect time for David Long Jr. to take a starting role, but can't. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, cornerback is such a hard position to play in the league, especially as a rookie. But David Long, to me, has just not moved the needle. And I understand there's guys in front of him, but think about this. Everyone's like, well, there's Darius Williams, and there's Troy Hill, and there's Jalen Ramsey, and there's Marcus Peters, and he didn't get a chance to play because all those guys were in front of him. Yes and no. So he didn't get a chance to play because those guys were in front of him. You're correct. But no, that is not why he didn't get a chance to play. He didn't get a chance to play because he got beaten out by a UDFA on another team that they claimed. Okay? Like, that concerns me. A third rounder out of Michigan got completely beat out by Darius Williams, who was originally from UAB, and he was on the Ravens. The Ravens cut him to bring in Jimmy Smith, who was either suspended, like he was on a suspended list, or he got hurt. So they cut him trying to sneak Darius Williams onto their practice squad. The Rams said no. They loved him. They picked him up. They got him. They developed him. And then at the end of that season, he was able to play. He looked really good. Darius Williams looks very, very good. One of the better cornerbacks in all football. I'd say he's maybe top 10 right now, and people don't even realize it. So I get, like, he's turned into just a he's a top 10 corner arguably, and that's a lot. But that's also like, okay, he was a UDFA. Why is the third rounder like a fringe corner? You know what I mean? Like, that's my issue with him. That's why I feel like he's just, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If they're more confident in Dante Dion than they are in David Long Jr., that tells you all you need to know. They absolutely botched the pick, and that's fine. It happens. You're gonna botch picks. There's nobody is 100%. Nobody bats 100% in the draft. It's way too hard. Way too many things happen. I mean, just think about this. People will say, "Oh, he's can't miss," or "Oh, they'll say, well, he's a plug and play guy." Or, oh, this guy has a super high floor. But then the super high floor guy, you find out, actually has a hard time being coached. And then you're like, well, he has a super high ceiling? And then you find out his ceiling's not very high. So you're like, oh, so I just busted. Like, that's what happens. So, keep that in mind. Oh, boy. Where are we at right now? What are you guys thinking? Drop some more names. I'll tell you where I think they could go. Our new comps are now 38 and 101. Last time I checked, do you think this changes who we pick in the draft? 38 and 101? What do you mean by 38 and 101? Like the 38th compensatory pick and the 101st compensatory pick? I'm not really sure. No, I get that, Henry. I didn't like him at all, to be honest with you. I didn't see it, but, I just wasn't very high on him. I had other guys that I liked way more, but, By the way, looking at the Lions here, impending free agents, guys that Matthew Stafford could have texted, Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew, Mohamed Sanu, Danny Amendola, Kenny Galladay, Ode Abushi, Adrian Peterson, Jalen Reeves, Mabin, Romeo Aquara, Jared Davis, Reggie Ragland, Everson Griffin, Miles Killebrew, Daryl Roberts, Tony McRae, Duron Harmon. Harmon wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind Duron Harmon. I think he's probably if he's a cheap option, and he should be cheap, a cheap option that could fill that safety gap. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. By the way, I just realized that Jared Goff is going to be throwing to Tyrell Williams, but also Geronimo Allison, because they got Allison from Green Bay. They got him in free agency, and Geronimo Allison actually opted out of the season. Oh, and it looks as though free agents and cap casualties, so they've cut Jesse James, Justin Coleman, and Christian Jones. So those guys are also available. So who knows? I know there were a lot of people that they really liked Christian Jones in the draft. Oh, not Christian Jones. I'm thinking of somebody else. The Alabama guy. I think he's on the Panthers. I get the Panthers and Lions mixed up way too much. It's really bad. Justin Coleman is an interesting one, can play the nickel spot. So, he's somebody to keep in mind. I don't think Harmon's trash. But also keep in mind, by the Rams getting Harmon, it would have to be cheap, and it would have to be, he'd be like the fourth safety. And I also like Nick Scott. So I'm not, there it is, right on cue. What about Nick Scott for the Rams? Yeah, I like Nick Scott. So I'm not, like, I don't worry about the safeties as much as some other people. I don't understand that. Let me see here. So you're saying the Rams had the 38th pick in the third round? Well, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know what the confusing factor of that is, but All right, so teams have to be below the cap by 317. I don't think so. Maybe they do. I'm not really sure on that. All right, guys. So you tell me. Anybody else? Is there any sort of free agent that comes to mind that you'd like to know where you think they could go? I think the Rams should restructure everyone they can. Donald, Ramsey, Woods, Cup. I think Casey's a great option for the Rams. John Ross, Van Noy, definitely like Van Noy. 2017, we brought in Wade Phillips. He signed Kayvon Webster, and later he signed Aqib Talib. Then Staley brought in Floyd. Is Morris bound to bring in one of his guys? I mean, if that's the case, let's just look at the Falcons, shall we? Let's just look at their team and who like we're talking about the Lions a little bit too much because we're also connected to the Falcons. So if you're the Rams, and KZ can absolutely play cornerback, by the way, can play cornerback, which is what I was saying earlier. He can play all the cornerback positions and safety positions. He can play boundary, he can play inside, slot corner, can play free safety, can play strong safety. So the guys that are available from the Falcons on the defensive side of the ball, you have Charles Harris, who I mentioned, Stephen Means, Leroy Reynolds, Edmund Robinson, Bleedy Ray Wilson, Sherrod Niesman, DeMonte Casey, Keanu Neal, and Darqueze Dennard. Sorry. So personally, I think the only guys I'd be interested in are Charles Harris, DeMonte Casey, and Keanu Neal. Now, Neal, you don't need. Neal could start. So I don't know if you would necessarily go after a guy that could start. DeMonte Casey, he could also start, but you could throw him all over the place. And Charles Harris, I think, would be like another option. Like if you believe that he can be developed and, needs that would be something. Yeah, and Van Noy could go back to the New England Patriots. I don't think Van Noy is going to 100% go to the Rams. I just think the fit makes sense. And I like Van Noy a lot. Apparently the fans do. Did you see the response he got? Sheesh. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to. These last few years, what trends have you seen McSneed do in free agency? They prioritize certain things. So, we can go back and look at when they got Ashawn Robinson, they were prioritizing, having a presence inside, having a true nose tackle. So I mean that's interesting. Going back to 2017 when they signed, Andrew Whitworth, they wanted a guy that could, 100% be a rock at left tackle. They wanted a guy in Robert Woods who had potential, was young, but could also do it all. Had speed, had hands, had ability, to make plays in open field. But on top of that, he could block. And if you can't block, you can't play wide receiver in Sean McVay's offense. So those guys. Signing Kayvon Webster, I think Webster offered versatility. I think Webster's somebody that they saw having, super potential. And unfortunately, things just didn't work out because of, the injuries he had. And of course, they go out and, they loaded the farm there and got a bunch of guys. But I don't know. I mean, the trends that I've seen, they'll go out and you've already mentioned it, or someone already mentioned it. They'll go out and get guys that help their defensive coordinator. Um, yeah, that's what I'll say on that. Who do you think will have a breakout season this year? In general or like on the Rams? Because in general, I mean, there are plenty of guys I think will break out. Because it's not taking them so long to get under the cap with 3 days left. What's happening is that they've probably already finished a lot, and they're just going to release it all at once. Rams just said everyone they basically threw away their future with those first rounders for Stafford. These last few years, what? Okay, I've already seen that. Okay, so on the Rams, breakout players. I mean, Matthew Stafford. I've already gone on record saying I think he'll win MVP. Um, that's tough. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, because I think there's going to be so much well balance in the receiver room that I can't say anybody's going to break out. I mean, what would a Cook, what would Cups, or Woods or Jefferson have to do in a breakout scenario? I mean, Jefferson, I think, will automatically break out because he's becoming the third receiver now. Um, Akers could, you know, Higbee, Bryson Hopkins. I'll say, Bryson Hopkins is my X factor here because, my dark horse breakout player because Bryson Hopkins had that red shirt season and so he didn't play. So it was like, I know people would be like, well, he didn't play, but I feel like he learned a lot. I feel like, being in that room helped. I think Bryson Hopkins has a chance to have a hell of a season. I do. We'll see though. I just okay, so Jake, I just didn't really understand your statement. Rams should just said everyone. They basically threw away. So okay, so what you're saying is the Rams just said to everyone they basically threw away their future with those first rounders for Stafford. I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with it because like what do you mean they threw away their future? Cuz I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't get that. Rams should just sign everyone. Oh, sign everyone. They basically threw away their future. I mean, I just don't agree with them like throwing away their future though. And I don't know. I think okay, so I understand people get mad about McVay and Les Snead and all that, like trading stuff. But let me just say this: on what planet are you going to trade, or you're going to release or fire Sean McVay if they don't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years? When you can only have one team that wins a Super Bowl every year. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots did six times, and then he just did seventh time by himself. So that takes all those teams out of the equation. So that's six rings going to one team since 2000. So I just don't understand that. I mean, don't get me wrong, championships are great and they 100% are everything, but you don't you don't fire Sean McVay. Sean McVay built you to the point where you're the team that is win now. You're the team that doesn't take a division championship for for an answer. You're the team that doesn't like Sean McVay built this. That's what I'm not understanding with people saying that Sean McVay will be fired. Like you realize that it was the Sosar Rams. You realize their culture was a 7-9 Jeff Fisher football team, and then before that, it was going out and getting Steve Spagnuolo, hoping to catch fire on a hot hire that had a great defense that won them the Super Bowl against the Patriots in the in that Super Bowl. And then before that, it was Scott Linehan who's just like in like the definition of like a base coach. Like he's about as average or basic as you want to put it. And then before that, I mean, they had all sorts of guys. So I don't get that. I don't think that they would just fire Sean. Like they wouldn't fire Sean. Sean McVay will never be fired. Sean McVay will probably end up stepping down. Okay, so I don't agree with that, Jake. You're entitled to your opinion, but the idea that Sean McVay would be fired to me, I just think is asinine because I just think we've taken the Rams for granted now, where it's, oh, what, we lost in the divisional round to the Packers. This is unacceptable. We should be winning the Super Bowl every year. Do you realize that wasn't the case, right? Like that just happened. That just happened with Jared Goff as our quarterback. Jared Goff as an average quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he's playing well before, but you could argue Sean McVay comes here and was like, okay, Sean McVay, like, Jared Goff, I see you went 0-7 last year. I see people are questioning if you're smart enough to play football. I see if, I see a lot of things. Let's change that a little bit. Let's go out. We're going to get you a left tackle in Andrew Whitworth. We're going to go out and get Robert Woods because we know Buffalo doesn't realize how good he is. We're going to draft Cooper Kupp. We're going to draft Josh Reynolds. I'm going to turn Todd Gurley from Eddie George into Marshall Faulk overnight. And I'm going to go out and get you Matt LaFleur. And so I guess my point here is we've seen all these coaches. We saw Ben McAdoo come from the Packers. Everyone talk about, oh, well, he worked with Aaron Rodgers. And then he goes to the Giants, and he's a joke. Sean McVay isn't getting fired. It's not happening. He's one of the best football minds in the league, bar none. So we can give him hell, and trust me, there are times that I do. But exactly, all at the age of 30. But what Sean McVay has been able to do, he took you realize, like, I live in upstate New York. I was like bullied in school for being a Rams fan. People were like, the Rams are trash. Like they would lose to the Giants or something on Monday Night Football. And people would be like, it's like they're trying to be good, but they're not a good team. Oh, they're in it, but they're not in it. And now Sean McVay takes this team. They have some ridiculous record when they're winning at halftime. They're 36-0 or 37-0 with Sean McVay. And I just, like, people really think that Sean McVay is going to get fired if he doesn't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. So what happens if the Rams score 38 points but lose 41-38 to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes? Does Sean McVay get fired for that? And then the next year they go to the Super Bowl and they lose to Patrick Mahomes, or they lose to Justin Herbert, they lose to Brandon Staley's defense. You think Sean McVay's going to get fired? This isn't just Jake Klein. Guys, I've seen this everywhere. I don't feel like he's a troll. I feel like he believes that, and that's totally fine. But I'm just telling you that I've seen it literally everywhere where there's so many people that are like, Sean McVay is just done. If they don't win with Matthew Stafford, okay, describe win. What is win? What do you mean if they don't win? They're going to win games. Everybody wins games. You're not going to go 0-17 with Sean McVay. So describe win to me. And they'll be like, oh, well, if they don't win a Super Bowl. Well, that's ridiculous. And don't get me wrong. They absolutely should win a Super Bowl. They are absolutely good enough. But I'm not going to say right now that, like, Sean McVay should be fired. Sure, fire Sean McVay. Go back to your 7-9 BS. Go back to the Sosar Rams. And because you haven't learned from history, apparently, when, you didn't fire him, but you let him go, and Kurt Warner, since you haven't learned from if that's the case, if you go that route, you haven't learned from history will repeat itself. And the Rams, there will be a cycle that comes around again where the Rams are not good anymore. You impede that by keeping Sean McVay around. And keep this in mind, what Sean McVay is ultimately doing is he's bringing in all these coaches. You could have a great coach, but he doesn't know how to bring other coaches in. He doesn't, he's not as great of a networker, which is so realistic you wouldn't believe. Sean McVay is, though. So that's why he's able to continue to lock and reload with all these new guys, all these new coaches. Why do you think guys in college are coming out? Like, Sean McVay knows how to make these connections. So that's the thing. You let that guy go out the building, you can bring in a coach that's top notch, right? Just a great coach, but doesn't know how to acquire those guys. What's going to happen when every year his coaching staff gets plucked? It's not going to be able to fill it as easily as Sean McVay has. So that's my point there. But I think that is going to do it. That's a little bit of a TED Talk, rant, whatever you want to call it. Just wanted to let you guys know that Sean McVay is still one of the best coaches in the NFL. That's not going to change. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys want to hang out with me later on tonight, I don't know exactly when because I'm having company over, but later on tonight I will be on. We'll be streaming games, whether it be Madden, franchise mode. Maybe we'll play some Rocket League. I don't know, like Hitman 3. Like, I have all sorts of stuff. So we'll just hang out, do an Ask Me Anything, episode 3, have some fun. But I'll be doing that later, so be sure to tune into that. But you guys take care. Have a great rest of your day. And if I don't see you tonight, I will be back on Monday. And that is the tampering day, which is huge because right at 4 Eastern time, I believe that's when the floodgates open. And I will be doing a live stream for a while. I don't know if I can do it all night, but I'll try and keep up with it. And, we'll be able to talk about each thing that happens. So, again, thank you guys so much. You guys take care. Come on tonight. If not, I'll see you Monday. Later.